infrastructure projects to growth in Greater Dorchester County. Those are some of the issues that State Senator Sean Bennett of District 38 is tackling. I talk one-on-one with the State Senator for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. State Senator Sean Bennett, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Good to be with you, Quintin. How are you?
Well, I'm doing just great. I know obviously you're the State Senator for State Senate District 38, which covers
most of Somerville, pretty much greater Somerville area, Dorchester County, a little piece of Charleston County, and Lincolnville.
Wow. So tell me, Senator, what's new, what's now with State Senate District 38?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that we're dealing with is most of this community down here in the Tri-County region is growth. I mean, it is Dorchester County is changing. A lot of new faces coming in, struggling. I think we're doing a pretty good job of bringing in the new folks, but also keeping the character that makes Somerville, Somerville.
How do you keep that character in place with new people coming into Dorchester County?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it's just a sense of community here, right? It's a great place to live. We still have that small town feel, even though we're expanding more and more. But the people here are just great people. And when you have great people, great things happen.
Yes, sir. A better question is this, Senator. How do you keep up with that growth, with smart growth?
Yeah, growth is very difficult. For us at the State House, it's not as much of a challenge. I mean, we certainly deal with the frustrations of the citizens, but with home rule in South Carolina, most of that growth is managed by the counties and the municipalities, and they struggle with that every day. We help where we can, but really it's our county governments or our municipalities that are dealing with that and trying to balance quality of life with growth and the people that want to live here.
What exactly is that balance for quality of life and the people who want to live there?
Yeah, it's hard. People come here because it's a beautiful place to be and good schools. And as that changes, more and more people are in our schools, more and more people are on our roads. Developments are popping up into communities that, are used to being maybe not rural, but partially rural, or at least not having people right up on top of them. It's a challenge from mobility to housing affordability, to education. It's a challenge for everybody from the state down to the local communities. But I tell you, I would much rather have the challenges of a growing, vibrant community than that of a dying community.
And Senator, you talk about three of those big topics that are obviously, popular here in the Low Country and beyond. You talk about the housing affordability, and you talk about education, you talk about mobility.
Yeah.
Can I go to housing affordability first?
Sure.
What exactly is needed in your particular community? Is it building new homes and commercial space, or is it rehabbing, expanding, and better utilizing those existing homes?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, certainly where we can infill, where we can blend in, where we can upgrade and help people improve their homes that are already here. I mean, that's ideally what you want to do. However, with the number of people moving in this community, you're going to have new housing inventory as well. So you got to balance those two. But the affordability is a significant problem. It's not a problem unique to us. I mean, communities all over the country are dealing with it, but we are struggling with it mightily in this community. I have a young daughter who with a young family who's trying to rent, and the fact is our tax policy makes it really difficult on renters because those properties are taxed at a much higher rate than a residential place, and the higher interest rates for mortgages make it much more difficult for young families to get into mortgages these days to get that lower property tax rate. So it's almost like this vicious cycle that they get caught into, and we've got to come up with some solutions to alleviate that problem.
What is your What is your solution, obviously, to rent control when most of these people are actually renting in your district?
Yeah, it's not rent control. I mean, that's something that we don't want to mess with. We want the private sector to be the private sector. But what we need to do is try to figure out a way for to balance our tax code. Again, it's the local communities that are dealing with most of these growth issues. But the way that the South Carolina General Assembly could help them is just from an overall change to our tax policy that helps to soften the blow. Right now, as you probably know, if I'm living in a house as a primary residence, and let's say my property tax on that property is $1,200, um, when if I were renting that piece of property, the property taxes on that house are $3,600. So just overnight, just because of the different ownership style, we're tripling taxes. That's something that we've got to work on and help the local communities work on. If you can do that, if we can help lower those costs so that the owners of these properties don't have elevated costs, then they're going to pass those savings on to the community.
You talk about those elevated costs. What do those entail as far as that?
Well, it's mainly those property
Okay.
taxes. It's gonna cost the same to maintain a household, one way or the other. Whether you're fixing a roof or fixing pipes, that price is not going to change. Those tax issues are significant, and that's the biggest thing that we can help control.
What else can you control in that particular capacity, Senator?
I don't know that we can, other than
Mm.
making sure that we've got good jobs for
Oh, yeah.
people to live in. You have a good job, you have a good salary, your family is making money, you can afford these instances where your housing costs are not as large of a percentage of your monthly budget. That's something that we can do. Certainly, creating jobs in the community also helps from a mobility standpoint. When people don't have to travel to other communities and get on our roads, it lessens the need for expansion of road systems. There's all kinds of those types of things that we can help. But basically, encouraging the private sector and the housing markets to be healthy, and then have healthy jobs and careers for folks to tap into those markets.
This might be a silly question, Senator, but with that particular issue that you just mentioned, obviously about the tax code and dealing with some of these property tax issues, is it possible for the state to have some sort of private public partnership?
I think there are some of those. I mean, you're seeing Charleston County do that, where the county is getting involved with affordable housing and those sorts of things. I think that's certainly going to be part of the equation.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, government is not going to be able to provide all the answers and all the inventory for housing. It's going to involve the private sector. It should involve the private sector. We should be just nurturing an environment where those areas can thrive, families can thrive, and afford housing of their own.
You talked earlier about jobs, Senator. So where exactly can you create those jobs to bring that relief to those particular tenants and residents in your area?
Yeah, I think we're doing a really good job of that across the state,
Mm.
right? More and more companies are moving here. Existing companies are expanding here. In our community, our economic development folks in Dorchester County have been doing a fantastic job over the last few years of bringing new business and industry to parts of our community that have never had those types of things before. Really impressive companies that are operating just north of Somerville in Dorchester County. And again, those folks now that were traveling to Berkeley, Charleston, sometimes even Richland and Orangeburg counties for jobs are now able to stay right here in Dorchester County and in the Somerville community. That's good for everybody.
So how many of those people from your particular district have jobs in these areas and are actually staying in Dorchester County versus going to Richland or Orangeburg counties?
Yeah, I can't tell you the exact numbers. I can tell you the numbers I've seen in the past were showing, and these are a couple of years old,
Sure.
but we're showing as much as 80% of our population was leaving the county every day to go to work. That number is much lower now. I don't know what that number is, but it's a much smaller number than it was.
Wow. And Senator, where else can you expand these areas for jobs and for these companies to come in and do more economic development in Dorchester County?
Yeah, I mean, they have to work with the county and the local municipalities to one, make sure that it's a company and industry that our environment can support, that our infrastructure can support, and that is going to provide good jobs. But we have a lot of space in the western part of Dorchester County. Uh, Somerville has a lot of areas for infill. Obviously, we're going to communicate with the neighboring counties to. Uh, we got industrial complexes. We've got commercial complexes up along 26 for expansion. There are sites set for the I-26, I-95 intersection, which is a significant transit area that I think we have some real great opportunities for growth in the future. It's not happening tomorrow, but certainly in the next 10 years, I think that'll be an area where Dorchester County is really going to thrive.
So, how do you get that infrastructure ready for that right now?
Yeah, that's hard, right? So those are expensive things. I mean, running water lines are expensive things. So those things that the county and the state are partnering on to try to get. We've done things with the Lake Marion Water Authority to bring water into the upper part of Dorchester County. That's been an ongoing project for years. Doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's there. We've got water coming where we never had it before. So that water and sewer capacity is important for those landowners in that area, but it's an expensive project.
With that project, will that come, well, financially speaking, will that come from the state's gas tax?
No, I mean the gas taxes are provided to repair the
Mm,
existing roads. Some interstate improvements. Most of that is going to come from other funding sources.
wow. Have you all identified that for the I-26, I-95 project yet?
There's a lot of work being done both in the private sector and the
Mm,
public sector right now. I think I don't want to speak for
sure,
Dorchester
sure,
County,
sure, sure.
but I know that they're eyeing that of a way to get water and sewer to that area. They recognize that that's a vital component to the economic success of Dorchester County moving forward. The state recognizes it. I would imagine that the state would be prepared to partner where they can. It's going to take. We talk about private public partnerships a lot, but it's also going to take public partnerships a lot. Whether it's roads or water, those heavy infrastructure type things. We're going to have local communities as well as a state partner. There's not going to be one or the other that's going to be able to provide the entire project cost for these things.
And when it comes to water and sewer, that is, Senator, and I know this is probably some issue that I need to talk with the Dorchester County officials with, but do you know, well, if they get more water and sewer to that area, do you believe that more people from, well, in those areas that need to be annexed into will actually annex into Dorchester County?
Well, you're probably not going to change the county lines.
Mm.
But you may change the municipal lines, whether it's St. George or
Oh,
Reesville
yes.
or those things. But I don't know that they're even talking about that right now. I think what they're talking about is just making sure that we have uh, property that's available that doesn't infringe on other people's private property rights, that can support industry and provide good paying jobs to communities that have not had those opportunities in the past. If you have good projects going on, particularly in that I-95, I-26 corridor, you're going to be able to help rural communities, poorer communities, whether it's in Dorchester County, Colleton County, Orangeburg County, and that whole, as they say, that corridor of shame that they call it, is allowing for economic growth in those communities that haven't been able to experience that yet. That's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. And I know this is probably another silly question here, Senator, but are you all asking the developers to help with this as well?
Oh, sure. I mean, developers have to participate.
Mm.
The days of the state or the counties or the municipalities just rolling over and providing things for the private sector at no cost are over, right? I mean, we're going to and companies know that. I mean, companies are certainly going to try to get as much as they can that they don't have to spend out of their pockets. But at the end of the day, they know that they're going to have to contribute to these projects as well.
And in those communities that you just mentioned, some in Orangeburg County, some in Colleton County, and whatnot, where exactly do you see more economic growth heading in those particular areas?
Well, I think that that heart of that area that I just talked to you about, that intersection there is a great starting point, and then it percolates out from there. I mean, there are folks in Orangeburg now that are just like folks in Dorchester would drive to Charleston for jobs. People in Orangeburg are now driving to Dorchester County for jobs. So we've got to make sure that we've got opportunities in all of those areas.
Are those opportunities available right now?
They're not always available right now. There are some opportunities, but what we're talking about are future opportunities, future areas of growth, future areas of expansion. You know, it's slow going sometimes, but it's certainly on the radar.
The radar. What else is on the radar when it comes to future infrastructure projects in Dorchester County?
Well, Dorchester County is working on a very significant road project or group of road projects right now. Again, that's a good example of state and county officials kind of coming together. The public, the local public, approving 1 cent sales tax increase to extend some road projects. There are a lot of road projects going on in Dorchester County right now. As difficult as it is to get around right now, there are things that are going on that are helping to alleviate those problems. The Berlin G. Myers expansion is set to open. That's going to provide a lot of relief. Now that we've had some closure to the I-526 issue in Charleston County, I think that frees up some opportunity for the state to participate in some other corridor type of improvements along Dorchester Road in Dorchester County. A lot of things that are close to being finished, a lot of things are in process, and many other things that are currently in that planning stage to alleviate road congestion. It's something that we've been working on ever since I got elected, and I know it's slow for the public, it's challenging for the public, but road projects particularly, take a long time to come to fruition.
And now with those road projects, Senator, were those particular projects already in the works with the last referendum?
We finished up the last referendum with the Berlin G. Myers extension was the last big project from the last referendum. The voters overwhelmingly supported in our community an extension of that for more other road projects. Certainly not the size of the Berlin G,
Yes.
smaller projects, but still, again, these projects come with billion-dollar price tags now, as opposed to million-dollar price tags, and it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge.
And it's sleeting again here in downtown Charleston. But let me ask you, with the Berlin G Myers extension, how much did inflation affect that?
Oh my gosh, significantly. First of all, it's important to know that we passed the referendum with that being the primary project in 2004.
Right.
2004 is when we passed that referendum. That project just went to construction, what, a year, maybe a year and a half ago.
Sure.
A lot of that were delays that were caused by the Corps of Engineers, environmental permitting, those sorts of things, which, while I certainly recognize the need for protecting the environment, I think that a lot of those delays were unnecessary and artificial, and they really didn't change ultimately how the road was built or what was built. But in that 20 years, prices went up significantly, and prices even went up more over the last 4 years. So, we're talking a project originally slated may cost 3 to 4 times as much by the time it gets completed. We've got to figure out a way on these road projects, no matter what community they're in, is to speed up that process so that those inflationary costs do not put undue strain on the local communities.
And, and, and I want to ask you this too, but when it comes to the infrastructure projects, How many more do you have left in your particular district?
Oh gosh, I mean, they're never ending. I
Well,
mean, they will never end.
mm,
Uh, as we continue to work through the ones that are on the books,
right.
you're already identifying things that you're going to need in the future. So I don't know that you can say, Quentin, hey, once these 12 projects get done, we're done and we can refocus on other things. Once those 12 projects are done, for instance, most of those 12 projects, for instance, we didn't even envision in 2024 or 2004 when we passed the first. So it's a never ending process.
And I want to ask you this too, but what 10-year plan, Senator, would you actually submit to the Department of Transportation to correct the backlog of maintenance and actually fix roads in your district?
Well, I think they're doing a good job. I mean, ever since that we added some funds to the motor fuel user fee, the gas tax that you mentioned earlier, all those dollars are going to mainly to rehab and improvements and safety on rural roads. And the department is well into that project. I cannot tell you, I can't remember right off the bat, but I want to say something like 80% of our roadways were in need of repair. That number is significantly dwindled down now. So those projects are ongoing, and the department is doing a good job. They had a 10-year plan, so they're well into that 10-year plan. And then the other side to that is separate and not included in those gas tax figures, but the interstate expansions that we're doing. We're widening 26 to 6 lanes from Somerville all the way to Columbia, right? And working on that, and that's in the process, and that's probably another, I don't know, 6 to 7 years before fully completed, but they're working on expansion from both ends, Somerville North and Columbia South, and they'll meet in the middle. Those are needed improvements.
Wow. To be continued, of course.
Continue.
State Senator Sean Bennett, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close Ups.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Likewise.